So it appears we're all going to be on this side tonight, so I would encourage everybody to get on this side. That way I can kind of do this and we'll have a good discussion and some different things. Welcome everybody. For those that do not know me, my name is Rick Valerie. I'm the chairman of the Deacons this year. And tonight we're basically going to be going through uh, preliminary budget. And the purpose of the meeting tonight is to generally understand the process that we go through and just give everybody an idea of how and what type of discussions happen and that type of thing. So we're going to be talking about the budget process, we're going to be talking about the debt, we're going to be talking about the budget itself, we're going to be talking about some of the accomplishments we've had, and we're going to be talking about a 5-year plan. And we'll go through all those. But before we do that, let's open in prayer. Lord God, you are a great and glorious and generous God, and we just thank you, Lord, for blessing Community Bible Church. We pray, Lord, that as we go about serving you, that we seek to serve you, that will bring you, so that we bring you more honor and glory. We seek to serve those in the community, so that will bring you honor and glory. And we seek to serve anywhere you want us to serve. And to do that, sometimes we need finances. And to keep up the buildings that you have blessed us with, we need maintenance and that type of stuff. So tonight, Lord, as we explain the process and as we seek to serve you and seek to serve you in ways that we might not have thought of, that you just bless us with your wisdom, your discernment, your encouragement, your strength, and your love. And for that, Lord, we give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so we're going to start out, and unfortunately, we will not have slides because you can't see it. You literally cannot see the numbers on the slides. So there is a handout in the back. I would recommend that you pick it up as you come in, and we'll be going through that in general terms. But to begin with, we want to show you a part of the process of how the deacons start out. And so this is very preliminary and very basic. And by the way, we will have questions at the very end. I don't think this is going to take too long for me to get through this. So if you picked up that operating budget for 2021 and 2022, you will see that across the titles, there's 17, 18, 19, 20. Those are actuals. And basically we use a 5-year actual budgetary process to begin the process. Now, you always have to make adjustments for various things and throughout. And so these numbers you see are not necessarily going to be the same. They may be, they may not be. But that's what the process is about, is moving forward or seeking what the best opportunities would be to serve and how to do that. So you always have to start out with a beginning balance and that type of thing. And so that's what we do. We then take the 5-year averages and place those numbers into what we call 22, and that becomes the starting point. And sometimes those numbers are reduced, or sometimes they're left the same. So I'm going to stop right there. That's the process. I'll get into it a little bit more a little bit later on, but I want to go through a couple other things first, and we will go through the complete budget, so I'm just coming back to it. So one of the things that we've had some questions on that I want to make sure is understood, and how we have handled the debt. So on February 1st of 2018, the church went into debt for $1.6 million. From the very beginning, even though I was not on the deacon at the time, from the very beginning, we knew that we were going to do our best to pay that down early. So it was a 10-year note with a balloon payment on February 1st of 2028 of $667,000. But because we knew we were going to do our best to pay this down early, we've been making payments higher than what's required. And on January 1st of this year, we refinanced and got a better interest rate. And so basically, we are paying $13,600 a month, where what is due is $8,500. And so because we are paying it down, and if we continue this, we're only going to have a balloon payment of $6,000. And I don't even think we're going to have a balloon payment. I've been here almost 30 years. We've gone through three different loans of major portions. Every single one of the loans, when we built the Family Life Center, was $1 million. When we bought the land over there was $200,000 or $400,000. I can't remember the number. They were all paid off early. We have a very generous church, and we need to be thankful for that. So the remaining balance on the loan as of today is $921,000. And if things work out, that's probably going to be paid off. The goal of the strategic plan is to have paid off in 3 years. We may or may not make that goal, but we're in good shape. And that's what we want to point out tonight, that when we have these discussions, we want to pay off the loan money as quick as possible. Okay. So now let's go back to the budget itself. So the budget itself is based on a 5-year average, and we kind of make decisions on income and expenses, and that's pretty much how all budgets work. So it's always interesting in the discussions. Some folks want to do a little more, and some folks want to do a little less. And that's fine. That's just part of budgeting process. And so as we go through, we're seeking your input to see where we should be doing a little bit more or where we should be doing a little bit less. So our draft budget for income, we're expecting approximately $625,000. This is the same number that was budgeted last year. By the way, I need to explain FY21 prorated to the end of fiscal year. We are expecting at the end of this fiscal year, which is September 30th, to have received $638,000. So we're being conservative right now, and we're looking at 625. Again, this number may go up or down. Okay? Next is building, and we need to explain the building a little bit. We have some folks who very generously give to paying down the building debt, and only the building debt. They might give to the general fund, but they have very specifically designated certain amounts of money to go to the building fund. So over the years, we have been able to budget that at around $85,000. That was the budget last year. And through some very generous donations, we were able to reduce the debt by $163,000 this year. Now that's this fiscal year, which is October 1st to September 30th. Now, because that was very generous and that happened this year, we're not expecting it for next year. It may happen, it may not. So we're budgeting $85,000 as expected income. So that's kind of a designated fund for the building, and and then we look at that every now and then. And honest truth, there are times in that building fund when it will get up to $40,000 or $50,000, and the deacons will just make a motion and move that $15,000 or $20,000. We want to keep a certain amount reserved. We kind of like a 2 or 3 month cash reserve, you might say, and so we'll just simply reduce that by 10 or 15 and pay off the debt even quicker. The next revenue statement is 4,500, and that's other revenue, and that is a all collection category, and that's the pop money. That's I can't even name everything that goes under that. Let me check here real quick. It's just miscellaneous income that we get, and so that's been fairly consistent around that 5,000, 4,000. So we're suggesting 4,500. So that gives us a total of 714,500 in our draft. And I do want to stress this. This is a draft. All right. So you can go through the personnel expenses, which are the very next. We always, for as long as I've been part of the deacon, that will take place usually about 2 weeks before the end of the fiscal year, that we'll go through and we'll have all the different discussions about all the salaries and job duties, responsibilities, vacation, sick leave, all that type of stuff. And so that's all to come. So those are, again, estimates. I do want to point out associate pastor. We did plug in $60,000. So that is to be determined, and I want to point that out because technically we could take it all out, but because our budget goes clear into September 30th of next year, we think it's probably good to have some money in there. It might be, that might be reduced a little bit. We simply do not know of when the hiring process of new associate pastors and or pastors will happen. So that's simply a number right now, and it may go up or down. Okay, now we're going to flip to the second page on the back of the first. Building and equipment. We have a building fund, and under all those come a lot of different categories. Building insurance, building repairs, church grounds, supplies, different equipment. We have a building sinking fund, and different things that we have that take a certain amount of maintenance, technology, phone, utilities, and they're just part of a standard budget that folks approve as we come through. So one of the things that's listed there, we're kind of looking at the building fund to be about $144,000. Again, that's the same as last year's budget. Now, we spent quite a bit more than that. So we got to figure that out. Building insurance is pretty standard. Building improvements, repair. I thought we changed that to maintenance. Okay. We're going to change the word improvements to maintenance because that's technically what it is. Last year we budgeted $9,000. We spent $8,000, and we're budgeting $10,500 this year. Building grounds, we budgeted $9,000. We used $3,500, and we're going to budget $9,000. Cleaning supplies are $9,500. We spent $9,200. We're going to budget $9,500. Equipment. This is an area where we're going to have to kind of make some considerations about certain things, but the last couple of years we've been in that 9,000 bracket, actually a little bit higher than that, but we're going to stay in that 9,500 bracket. Phone and internet is 4,500 last year. We spent 3,900. We're going to budget 4,500. Again, these may change. Technology. This is kind of a new category, so we don't have a full 5 years of that, but we've been spending about $28,000 a year. And for this church, we have to fully understand technology is extremely important. It really is. There's lots of things that happen via technology that we're starting to take granted for within the church facilities. That includes all the computers, the Wi-Fi, the security, the cameras, everything. So we have gone through this year, and Deacon Matt Bauer has been very, very helpful. We're going through each and every one of the subscription services that we purchase, and we're double checking to see if we have a need. So this number may change, it may stay the same. I think it's important for us to do that review, because especially when there's a change in pastors, but we need technology. I mean, it's amazing what it's used for here. So all the different programs, and there's quite a few. Let's see if I have that. I have a list. It's a full page. On the back page, my expenses. Oh, that page. We did not hand this out. Okay, so we didn't hand it out, so I'm not going to show it. But basically, there's about 20 different subscriptions that we subscribe to, all the way from $200-300 to $1,000 a month. So we're going to be going through that, and my guess is we're going to keep most of them. But we are going to be doing that review, and you need to know that. And if you have expertise in technology and some of the subscription services, we'd love to visit with you about that. But that's just one of the things that church has become dependent upon. Not saying it's right or wrong, it's just the way it is, you might say. Okay, following next is administration. Advertising is kind of been up and down, and so we put some money there. Conference travel, speakers. This is for both pastors and or elders and or women and or folks that attend conferences from the church. Once they have to go through a process to gain permission. I had a question asked to me at the elder meeting. Could one of the elders use this expense to travel to a future candidate and just listen in their church how the candidate may or may not be received? And so I think that would fit in. So it's kind of a broad category, but those are the basics. We click that in at 10.5. Copier maintenance is at 25, and basically we've been in that 2,000, 2,200 bracket, so we think 25 will cover it. Flowers and gifts, we actually upped that quite a bit. I have forgotten the reason. Can a deacon help me with that reason? Oh, yes, thank you. Birthdays and anniversaries, and we actually had the first one today, and that is we purchased for birthdays and anniversaries and Sunday school promotion some Zesto coupons, and so we bought a full year supply, and we're going to use up the 1,300 about there, maybe a little bit less. Again, office supplies are pretty standard. Postage is pretty standard, and it's going up, so we increase that. So one of the things that some of the deacons thought would be a good idea, and we've made that agreement. It's a good idea. Is to put in a separate category for pastor searches, and so we've done that. And then because of Wednesday evening and some of the other things that's been announced, we put in a category for reconciliation. Those numbers are really solid. They're close to actual what we're being told is going to cost. Now, the pastor's search might be a little bit less, but the consultant is pretty standard, or pretty well laid in. It will depend on how far we move forward through the process. Okay, special needs for church families, and that category basically we had a church member, well, I'm not sure he's a member, but church family, has attended here for years, needed some help in cleaning up his house and garage and yard and stuff. So we got big garbage containers, and a crew of deacons went in and cleaned out, and it took 2 loads, 2 of the largest garbage containers you can buy. And so we took that money out of there. And so we have people in our church that have special needs, and we're going to continue to do our best to surface them as well as help them out where we can. Community outreach, we're actually doing a little bit more in community outreach than is being known about. We have reestablished contact with law enforcement, and law enforcement is helping send our way folks that we can help. Randy has Deacon Hofeld has been kind of working on that the last couple of weeks. We've done one elderly lady's yard, which included lawn mowing and tree trimming and that type of stuff. We did a elderly lady who has a hard time walking, basically taking some stuff she wanted taken to hospice, so we helped cleaned up her apartment. That might happen again. We have a potential replacement of a deck of some elderly folks, and they'll buy the lumber, we provide the labor. So there are things like that happening, but I will be the first to admit that we've probably done a poor job of letting the congregation know that. And here's another thing that happens with that. There are folks such as yourselves right here today that do it and never even worry about it. You don't have to be recognized for it, and that's fine. But I actually think community outreach from this church is bigger than we think. We just don't communicate it that way. And so when we have certain projects and we ask for certain volunteers, we're gonna do our best to communicate to the congregation that this is needed and that type of thing, and then we'll see where this all leads. So I think the community outreach is we left that pretty much at 3,100. Global outreach we left at 3,100. Okay. Last but not least is church programs. We've left budgeted last year 8,300 for Awana. We used 3,500. We're going to budget 8,300. Children's ministry budgeted 700. Last year we spent 100. We're going to spend 7. We're budgeting 700. Education material has gone down a little bit, but on the same token, we're staying strong in that area. While it's been reduced from last year's budget, we only used about half of last year's budget, so we reduced it slightly, but not much. Funerals, music, staying strong, and the reimbursable book expense, that is for Bible studies. Sometimes Bible studies use different Bible study books, and they're asked to pay for those books, and they do, so it comes back in, or if it doesn't, then the church pays for it. So that's where that comes from, and we actually have a large number of Bible studies and small groups that are working through that, and that's working out very well. And by the way, small groups is actually separate from that particular one. Scholarships at 300, pretty much the same. It was not used last year. Small group fellowship, I'm going to get to questions in a second. Small group fellowship, $13,000 last year. We're going to budget $13,000 this year, and quite a bit of that was used. Sunday school is about the same. We're just keeping it the same. Vacation Bible School, we spent a little bit more than we budgeted last year. So we increased that a little bit. Security and background checks, we spent a lot more. So we need to explain that a little bit. And so working with children and teaching and those type of things, the WANA, the different programs we do have security background checks. And everybody that wishes to be a volunteer in that area does need to go through a security background check. And those things cost X number of dollars, which we pay for. Now, they're good for 2 years. Okay? So, what's interesting is we had a large amount this year, and they're good for 2 years. Go ahead, just let me finish, okay? And youth ministry, we kept it 10 grand. So basically, what you'll find out when you look at total revenue is that because we, at this time, only at this time, we've estimated a little bit less income, and we added some expense. We're reducing our net revenue to $18,700. All right. I do want to take questions. I already seen 2. Priscilla had the first one. Just a second. We're going to get you a mic so that you can be here. This is live stream, by the way. I need to let people know that this is live stream.
What is the scholarship for?
So what is scholarship? Okay, scholarship is something that maybe a camp scholarship that a child can't quite afford and will help. So it might be go to Victory Bible.
Where is the cost for piano maintenance?
Diane.
Under music?
It's under music. Virginia. We have been told 2 years. So okay. The question was, the background checks are only good for a year, and so I have been told 2 years, so we need to get that corrected. Because thank you. And honest truth, and I didn't mention this at the beginning, but COVID threw a shot at this whole process. Last year was really tough to try to figure out, and that's part of that is because we have leftover money, so some of those monies weren't spent because of COVID. We just didn't have the programs. Steve.
I just see a lot of programs, but I just wonder, I know it takes some money like to do evangelism. Is that separate in those programs, or is you just pay for the program so much, or how does that work into the programs?
It's separate from what? Evangelism?
Well, I didn't know if you say like Awana is so much or children's ministry, there's going to be some, if you're going to give them a track or something that has to do with some evangelism, is that right in the program money or part of the program that?
If there's something that is needed, it would fall under education ministry and it would be provided.
So one just has to ask for whatever you want, and then that'll be gotten.
I assume when you visit with Jen.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, that's the education director. Okay. Oh, if it, okay, so it could be under community outreach if we're doing it outside the church. I took that different. Were you meaning outside the church? Oh, so we can flex on that. So one of the things that with all budgets, and please understand that, if there's a little money left over and we need a little money over here, we can move it. I mean, it's not hard and fast. A budget is a guideline. And so it's not that we're not wanting to do something. I mean, if somebody says, well, it's not in the budget, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, we can make things work. We just have to understand what the request is and then how make a decision as a deacon board how best to go about it.
Yeah, I guess, I try to address Steve's question a little bit here. There's a lot of different categories that this evangelism money could come out of, depending on what type of evangelism you're talking about. I mean, we've got vacation Bible school, Sunday school, small groups. There's scholarships, just educational material, children's ministry, Awana, and community outreach. So there's just the various categories depending on your specific evangelism. If it comes under the educational thing, or if it comes under one of these other categories, it's something that you would just come to the deacons or whoever, and we would consider it and apply it where it went.
For instance, last year, Chuck and Karen called me up and said these 3 boys lost their mom, their grandma, their dad, everybody. They burned all their stuff, and so they needed beds, everything in the house. So we got some stuff together and took down the reservation. So, but I didn't know if there was any, who I talked to, if we need help rounding up some stuff for somebody that like this, and I'm wanting to take it someplace to help somebody.
Okay, so you were made aware of a situation that needed help. All the deacons have the ability to spread the word and or find dollars or community outreach or evangelism or whatever. So it's simply trying to figure out what works best and make a decision. But it needs to come to the deacon board. I mean, we need to understand. We need to know, first of all.
See, the thing was they were pretty desperate, so it was just like, I got a couple days, our Bible study group got together and we took care of it, so I don't know the process, if we got to wait for a board meeting then, or is it something that I can talk to a deacon and we can get on it and get it going?
We're going to work with you.
Thanks.
If the need's there, the need's there, and don't get tied up in process too much. While I understand there's certain things process-wise that we need to do, we're also going to get her done. Sandy.
I just was wondering, small group fellowship.
Yep.
What does that entail? That seems like a lot of money, and I don't know.
So that details basically small groups. We actually have them. They meet outside of church during different days or evenings of the week. They can be women's, they can be couples, they can be men's. It's very varied. It's widely varied, and it might include small groups for singles or college that I know the Scott and Gay kind of work with. So and so it's material, and so it's a Bible study or a video or whatever. But it's go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Just a second. Let us get you on mic.
Thank you. This category includes things like food for church events. When we did those potlucks and things in the back where we provided all the food. It includes pop for the pop machine, communion supplies, things for the coffee bar, food purchased for Bible studies. It's kind of a broad category.
Other questions? Scott, Ted.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. I was just curious on here where the line item is for the survey we just took.
That survey cost about $600, $700, $800. And where did it go? I don't know. Part of it was because of Jesse's teaching, schooling. I don't know. Well, it might have. So I don't know, right? Part of it did, okay? And so the rest, which would have been $300, is somewhere in the budget there, and I don't know. Ted.
As I understand it, the Mexico Mission is basically through Cross-Centered Ministries. But I'm aware that the church supplies a lot of in-kind services, such as staff and plant. And where is that accounted for?
So in-kind would be in-kind. So if the church is providing in-kind, and it happened to be something that Virginia doing, it's in Virginia's salary. If it's volunteers, we don't have a category for that. So what type of in-kind are you talking? Computer use?
Staff, computer, printer, building, that all costs us money, or the church money, and that to me should be categorized. And
Oh boy.
and then Cross-Centered Mission should acknowledge that.
Okay. So to answer your question, if I don't know how much of that personally, I don't know that. So to answer your question is, if it's computer, if it's printer, they all fall under those categories. But for us to break that out might be a little bit harder to do. Now, I'm not saying we can't, but we'll take a look at it.
The Mexico Mission is different. The other missionaries are passed through completely. The Mexico Mission uses the church, where the other missionaries uses their church boards or their mission boards.
Okay, so yeah, there's some truth. Yeah, I can understand that statement. Steve?
No, because it's our kids and our people, and pretty much it's done because these kids down there were getting used for prostitution and for selling drugs, and somebody found the money for 20,000 Bibles, and they use our hands and feet to basically rescue these kids and they found a way to make those people middle class instead of making $50 a week. And I guess I see that it's a great thing for our kids to be hands and feet to evangelize people here and down there. And we do it in both places. And, to say we should pay, for what the church does, it's church people trying to do some evangelism. And that's why I'm looking at the evangelism part of our different programs and where that, fits in. I would think that so many hours and so much money for each of us should go to evangelism. It's just part of our Christian life.
Okay, other questions? Comments? Okay, so I want to move on just a little bit and just give you a brief little update. I'm actually going to be doing this again at the next potluck, but you guys are going to get the board review. From a deacon standpoint, we've actually accomplished quite a bit this year. We've established a 5-year plan, and I forgot to bring it, so I apologize for that, but I'll have it here next Sunday, or 2 weeks. And in essence, what that is that we need to be thinking forward and not reacting to the bills as they come in. But on the same token, we need to be flexible and have some cash on hand when something might happen. And a good example of that is Randy Deacon Holfeld ran across the guy that paints the stripes on the parking lots just one day, and he walks up to him and he says, "Hey, how much would it cost to do the church parking lot?" And the bid was reasonable, and we got it done in about 2 weeks. So we need a little flexibility, but on the same token, we need to plan. So early last January, I guess it was, I presented to the Deacons a potential 5-year plan, and it includes large projects and it includes small projects. And the small projects we're going to try to do if the money is there as we see fit. So to give you an idea, and there's lots of different variables, build a large garage behind the Family Life Center, concrete everything that's back here, build a little private homes, little tiny homes. What are they called? Tiny homes back here on this lot, and maybe use them for speakers or missionaries as they come in, or maybe a homeless person. We just don't know. One of the ideas I kind of liked was build back on the lot raised garden beds, and then maybe we could give the produce away in the fall to the needy or whatever. Those are the type of things that we're thinking of. Some of the things that are internal, okay? We're starting to use our Family Life Center and our chairs and our tables a lot, and we have always used them a lot. Well, we started a program this year, where we bought 4 tables and 32 chairs. We're going to do it again October 2nd. Just as soon as we can do it, we're going to order them again. We're starting to replace carpet and or flooring in different rooms, and this year we did room 200, and it cost about $2,500 to buy the wood flooring, and we wanted it wood flooring, or it's laminated, but it looks wood, and we wanted it because it's easy to clean up. Okay, so $2,500 for materials. Deacons did the work. We did that the year before, and it was $5,000 because we hired it done. No issue with that. I'm just saying that's the difference. So we're looking at doing that again next year. I'm not sure we wood floor. It might be carpet. It might be 2 rooms instead of 1. But we're definitely going to be ordering tables and chairs. We're definitely going to be trying to maintain the facility at a high quality as possible. One of the things that we know is going to be a cost eventually, and it might be sooner than later, and that is some sound, music, tech type equipment that probably is going to be in that $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 bracket, maybe higher. And so those are the things that, as we hear from you, we'll put it on a list. And if we can get her done in a budget year, we're going to get her done. If we have to wait, and one of the reasons we need to wait on blinds. Thank you, Ted. We got that on the list. We're going to do our best to get some blinds in here, and it's needed. And so, but yeah, that's on the list. We have what's that? It's like a bulletin board on the street, only it's digital. I can't think what it's called right now. The marquee, digital. Everything is in the concrete that we can run the lines and everything, but it's about a $25,000, maybe a $40,000. It's expensive. And so to do that, we need your permission as a congregation. Anytime we spend more than $25,000 on a project, we need your permission, and we have to come before you as a congregation. And that's in the bylaws. So one of the things that need to be understood is, as we put the budget together, we're going to do a lot of the maintenance, but some of the bigger projects we're going to have to come back. And one of the reasons we want to get the debt paid down as quick as we can, as soon as we're not paying $13,000 a month, which is $200,000 a year, approximately, we can use that money for other projects, whether they're big or small. Concrete parking, we've had some discussion on that. Just different things, using it in the community for outreach. I mean, those are the things we are planning. But it takes time, And, okay, we'll do a sound test on a microphone, or a motorcycle. It takes time, and it takes planning. And so the purpose of the 5-year plan is to kind of put this into written, and then when we are paid down, we'll start the bigger projects. But in the meantime, we will do some of the smaller projects as well, just within our budget. Randy.
Just like to make mention, as far as the last project of any significance we done was the room 200, putting the flooring in and stuff, and like you'd mentioned, Robert Henninger, one of the deacons, was done most of that, but also Scott Granville stepped up, and he done all the painting. All the church had to do was buy the paint, and Scott went in there and made it look really beautiful. So any of that stuff we can do, it just makes the dollars we do have go further. So
That's an excellent point, Randy. And we do thank a lot of folks here. We have a great church with a lot of helpers in it, and it just kind of, don't be afraid to ask, or don't be afraid to volunteer, because we can find a little spot for it. One of the things we did last year, and we're looking at a different concept. We're looking at teams. And so one of the deer, we've always had snow shoveling. and so we put it into a snow team deal. And the snow team is basically 3 or 4 people who make sure that the sidewalks are cleared for 1 week, maybe 2 weeks out of the winter season. And we named them all after minor prophets. We have the snow team Amos, the snow team Obadiah, the snow team Hezekiah. I can't remember all the minor prophets. But anyway, we want to make it a little fun, and we didn't have a lot of snow this year, so it's worked out pretty well. But for the other side of it, for the parking lot, that is done by the Becks. And that's pretty much, sometimes they charge, but most of the time they do not. So those are the things we're trying to do. Randy.
Make sure to address that too. You'll see in the budget, if you went through there, as Rick went through everything, some of them there are some big discrepancies in, and the snow removal would be just one of them. And there wasn't a dime paid out, to my knowledge, last winter in snow removal, just because of the winter we had. And that can be totally reversed this year, and we could be paying out a bunch. So you got to have the money there either way it goes, and that's just one of them things. And there are other areas that are similar to that. The only other thing that I guess I would just like to address with the people that are here and anybody that's listening on live stream is there's been a lot of conversation, which is good. I'm really glad of that, as far as this paying down the debt versus being out, getting outreach and evangelism in the community, or the state or the world, however you want to look at it, it don't matter. And that's something that I'm glad we're talking about. It does need to be talked about, but wherever you come in on those issues is fine individually. And then the bottom line is we as a board just have to make a decision, and we're going to do the best we can. We want to get that debt paid off as soon as we can, but we don't want to do it at the expense of being a church of God either. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Oh, well, thank you, Randy, because that's very, very important, because it's a very true statement. We want to do what God wants us to do, and we are in very good position, debt-wise, paying off-wise. But on the same token, and I did stress that maybe a little too much, on the same token, we need to do what God wants us to do and how we may serve Him best. And if that's community outreach or if that's something else, that just needs to happen. And so that's a very good point, and I do appreciate it. Other questions? That young lady back there. Roberta.
I would be the first one to say there's things more important than this, but where is the nursery remodel on a timeline, or, a dream timeline?
Okay, so the nursery remodel is on a 5-year plan. There's been 2 or 3 things that have been kind of added to it. One is discussion of adding a washer and dryer so that we do our own washing and drying here. We haven't made any decisions on that. But one of those things that we have to do is figure out how much it's going to cost. And so all the large projects such as the shop or the concrete pouring, we have not got bids on, so we don't know whether they're over or under 25,000. The nursery is in that category, but it is on the plan. Other questions or comments? I have Cheryl.
I just want to thank all of you deacons for all the time, all the hours you spend, as well as the elders. I'm not discounting them at all, but I know it involves more than a Tuesday night every other week or whatever it is, and I do appreciate it, and I do pray for you. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I'm sure a lot of you folks don't know how many hours we do spend, and we do it willingly. I mean, every one of the deacons are very committed, and we just thank you for that. So there's one last announcement, and this is just an announcement, and we'll get it figured out. Joel Junt is going to resign as treasurer, and so we're going to be looking for a treasurer, and he's going to hang on until we find one and that type of thing. But the key is the duties that the treasurer would do, in essence, is the data entry every Sunday, the deposits Monday or Tuesday, whatever works on those days, and maybe a few reports during the year, although Amy is very good at that, so we can maybe rely on Amy to get some reports done. And then the letting the people know their total contributions on an annual basis. So it is, there is some weekly. They are certainly welcomed at the deacon meetings if they so desire. Amy comes to the deacon meetings, and Amy does all the checks. And so this is a division of responsibility, which is really good in accounting practices. So Amy's going to stay on and continue to do what she wants to do, but the treasurer will be the data entry into who gave what where, and that's a spreadsheet that's filled out annually or daily or Sunday, weekly deposits, and then some year-end stuff. So be aware of that. If you have some interest, contact a deacon, and we'll see how this works out. Are there any more questions? Not going to belabor this. We're probably going to have, we will certainly have the congregational meeting where this will be done. There's very possible to have another meeting such as this in September. Scott, you have a question?
Are you looking for more deacons?
Yes.
I just wanted it out there.
Yeah, we do. We want it on the live stream. So the question is, are we looking for more deacons? And the answer is yes. And Elder Bob just said, and elders. And I think that's important. We've had some discussions about adding additional deacons. We might go down that road. There's certainly nothing wrong with that, but it might be able to be worked out with this team concept. So the snow teams worked out very well, and they don't have to come to meetings on a twice-a-month basis, but they're very involved. We have the same type of a team concept starting with hospitality that's going to be starting real soon. We're in the final phases of putting the structure together. So we're trying our best to get more involvement. Greeters ushers, those type of folks are needed as well. Randy has one more comment.
I'll put in a plug for my wife, the nursery team, and they're always looking for more volunteers. And she's got some other women that work with her in a team concept to keep that service to the church.
Yeah, and that's an important one. Nursery is very important. Let's go. Sound, lighting, video. They all
That's
need
what
help.
that's what I was going to say. Every team needs a lot of people.
Yeah.
Sound and video, we're down to some people doing it 2-3 times a month.
And so I'm going to give you a stat that I've been, we have one deacon and one elder on this hospitality committee, and I'm not even sure that's the right thing to call it. But one of the more interesting stats, we have 57 people signed up to be greeters. 57. And we struggle to get 4 a week. We struggle. So we're re-looking everything in this church from a variety of ways. And we just need to make some changes. Maybe it's communication. Maybe it's asking more. Maybe it's a commitment from the individuals. We appreciate everything that's happening and what we're doing right now, but we need additional help, and there's just no doubt about that. So whether it's in deacons or elders, or whether it's in sound, lighting, video, live stream, they all need help, and so please, if you have an interest, volunteer. Last call for questions. I'm within 3 minutes of my goal.
As I looked over it, the one thing I'd like you to reconsider is the associate pastor search expense and the allocation for the associate pastor's pay. It took us over a year to find a pastor. It's going to take us longer than 6 months to find the next pastor. And it would be my recommendation that you don't look until you've got the dust settled a little bit. And you've allocated a little more than a half a year's worth of wages for that associate pastor. For the budgeting process, I think you could scale that back, both on the search and on his pay.
I'm not sure we can scale back the search. The pay, we maybe could. So, but here's the thought process, and this is going to take some decisions in the future via the elders. And that's whether we need 1 or 2 pastors. And that discussion is ongoing. And we simply don't know, because the elders and some of the elders has pretty much decided that they're not going to move forward with the pastor search until reconciliation assessment is done. And we don't know whether that's going to be 2 months, 3 months, or longer. So there is some wiggle room, but if it's decided by some of the focus groups and by your input that we need 2 pastors, then the $60,000 is probably going to be about right. If we end up with 1, it's going to be too much. Randy.
And just going back to some of the discussions we had at the last meeting on that, some of those duties that Jesse had are going to be picked up by other staff. That's why, we might not be spending it to Jesse's old salary, but it's still going to be spent. I understand Roxanne's going to pick up a lot of extra duties and have more hours. Going to be some of that going on.
Yeah.
Point that out.
That's another good point. Thank you, Randy. Okay, so the survey is done and over, okay, and the survey has led to a decision to do what is called an assessment, and the assessment is basically done online via Zoom, and it's with congregation folks. And people who have questions or comments will be scheduled. We're still kind of working our way through our process on that and understanding how it's to be done. After that is completed, after the assessment is completed, there will probably be a 2, 3, 4 week time frame for the company to put together what they've heard, the input, and then depending on an additional contract that elder deacons will agree with or not agree with. If we agree with it, we'll move forward and we'll do additional focus groups. And that'll be when they come here. And again, we'll go through the same process.
Has the contractor been selected?
Yes. Yeah. And it's right now, it's established in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is the assessment. Yes. No, thanks for the questions. Any other questions? Thank you very much for attending. Again, we're going to try and have another one maybe in September. We're going to do our best to do one more. And then we'll start making decisions and we'll have better numbers. Each time we meet, we go through the numbers. Have a safe evening and safe drive home. God bless you all.